Okay, let's dive right in. What you're looking at on your screen might seem like just a simple graphic, but trust me, it's so much more than that. This is our look inside what could be one of the most important strategic blueprints for a nation's data infrastructure that we've seen in years.
So the big question is, what are we really looking at here? Is this just some slick marketing material for a new tech project, or are we looking at a literal roadmap for an entire country's digital future? We're going to deconstruct this thing piece by piece because it reveals a hidden strategy at the highest possible level.
And look, that's not just my take on it. The source material is crystal clear on this point. This isn't about selling a product. It's about declaring a whole new form of sovereign infrastructure. We have to look at this thing as a strategic blueprint, not some kind of advertisement.
All right, so let's get into it. Let's start by understanding exactly why this graphic is being called a declaration of national importance and what that really means for everyone involved.
Okay, here it is, the first major revelation and honestly the core idea of this entire explainer. We are not talking about a typical blockchain or crypto project here. The argument is that Jasmy is the foundational personal data layer for the entire nation of Japan.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Take a look at this list of services. These aren't just, potential use cases you'd see in a white paper. No. These are official, public, government-level workflows. You don't get your name on a chart like this unless you've already passed some serious national security audits and are being wired directly into the country's public infrastructure.
So, how do all the core pieces of this new infrastructure actually fit together? Well, this whole data stack is basically built on two key components.
And this just brilliantly illustrates the two-part system. On one side, you've got Jasmy, handling the super-critical components of identity, data sovereignty, and who gets access to what. And on the other side, you have Janction, which handles all the processing, the compute, the workflows, all of it. So you can think of it like this. Jasmy secures what the data is, and Janction manages how that data actually gets used.
This seal of approval right here, that is not a small detail. It is a massive signal. The source material says this is basically the equivalent of a U.S. company getting certified by the Department of Commerce, Homeland Security, and NIST all at the same time. It means Jasmy meets government-grade encryption standards and can legally plug into national public infrastructure.
Okay, now we get to what the source calls the smoking gun. This is the most crucial piece of evidence in this whole graphic, the part that absolutely confirms its national significance.
Before we go any further, let's be absolutely crystal clear on what JPKI is. This is not some third-party logging service. JPKI is Japan's foundational national digital identity system. It's the official tool for authenticating citizens for any and all government services.
So here's the kicker. The graphic isn't just suggesting a partnership or something. It is literally showing Jasmy being integrated directly into the JPKI stack. This means the Japanese government is making this protocol a core part of its national identity framework. It's huge.
To really wrap your head around the scale of this, just imagine for a second if a single private company's protocol got integrated directly into America's most sensitive identity systems. We're talking about the core infrastructure for Social Security, the IRS, the passport system. It's a level of integration that is almost unheard of.
So, if that's the massive sovereign infrastructure Japan is building, what does this have to do with that other system mentioned in the source material, Enkai? How does that fit into this whole picture?
Well, the source positions Enkai not as a competitor, but as a direct strategic parallel. The idea is that it's being built as the Western world's equivalent, a mirror architecture for sovereign identity, but one that's designed for a totally different kind of ecosystem.
This table just lays out the alignment perfectly. Where Japan has Jasmy and JPKI for identity, Enkai has its own DID system. Where Japan has Janction for compute, Enkai has its compute layer. But, and this is a big but, look at that key difference in the last row. Japan's is a top-down, government-led infrastructure project, while Enkai is being framed as a bottom-up, decentralized community movement.
Okay, so with all of this strategic depth, what does it all mean from a market perspective? Well, that brings us to the final, and maybe the most direct, message of this entire blueprint.
And this isn't my interpretation or some analysis from an outsider. It's written right there on the blueprint itself. They are openly stating that the true scale and significance of this project is not yet understood or valued correctly by the global markets.
So the crucial point is that this whole mispricing thing comes from a fundamental misunderstanding. The market is still looking at Jasmy through this really narrow lens of it being just another crypto token, when the reality being presented here is that of a national-scale data utility that's deeply, deeply integrated with the state.
This quote from the source really just summarizes the entire opportunity being laid out here. It points to this profound disconnect between the project's reality as a piece of sovereign infrastructure and what the market currently thinks it is.
And that leaves us with a final, pretty provocative thought to chew on. You've got these two parallel paths unfolding. Japan is building the top-down, state-sanctioned infrastructure, and Takai is building the bottom-up, community-driven movement. So the question is, what happens when this hidden blueprint becomes common knowledge and the rest of the world finally catches on?